Welcome back, everyone. I am so pumped to have you here for this explainer, because today we're diving into something totally fascinating. Think about this. What if some of the absolute most powerful forces driving success in our world are literally invisible? We spend so much time obsessing over the tangible stuff, right? Hard skills, raw talent, physical resources. But what if the real engine driving achievement doesn't run on fuel at all? What if it runs on something completely unseen? Today, we're uncovering the invisible engine of expectations and how it quietly but forcefully shapes the reality we all live in.
Okay, let's dive into this and crack open section 1, the mystery of success. So to really understand this invisible engine, we have to look at a kind of strange phenomenon that's honestly all around us. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to succeed way before they actually deserve to? Like, why do certain folks just magically receive these golden opportunities, unshakable confidence, and early wins before they've literally proven any of their actual abilities? Normally, we think of success as a reward for past performance. You do a great job, then you get the opportunity. But sometimes people are just handed the keys to the kingdom before they've even built the castle. It really begs the question, could totally invisible expectations be actively shaping these real-world outcomes?
To find that answer, let's move right along to section 2, discovering the invisible engine. Let's travel back to the 1960s, straight into the lab of pioneering psychologist Robert Rosenthal. He set up this wild experiment. Researchers were told that certain rats had been specially bred to be absolute geniuses, highly intelligent maze navigators. The other rats, they were just described as your average, run-of-the-mill, ordinary rodents. But here is the massive twist. The rats were entirely random. There was literally no such thing as a genius rat in the bunch. Yet, when the experiment ran, the rats that were believed to be intelligent consistently performed way better. No way, right? How did a bunch of random, average rodents completely fool a room full of highly educated scientists? Well, the secret wasn't in the rats at all. It was in the humans. Because the handlers fully expected the so-called smart rats to succeed, their own human behavior completely changed. They unconsciously treated these supposedly smart rats more gently, gave them a lot more attention, and quietly encouraged them more, simply because they expected a better performance. So the handlers' expectations actually changed their own behavior, which then directly influenced and improved the rats' performance. It's wild. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the phenomenon isn't just about laboratory animals. In 1968, Rosenthal teamed up with Lenore Jacobson to take this out of the lab and straight into an elementary school. Teachers were told that certain students had been scientifically identified as intellectual bloomers who were guaranteed to show massive academic growth. But the reality? Those students were selected completely at random. Yep, pulling names out of a hat. They weren't naturally gifted, they were just random kids. Yet months later, those exact random students demonstrated significantly greater academic improvement than all their peers. Just like the rat handlers, the teachers' expectations physically altered the learning environment. Because they fully believed these random kids were little geniuses on the verge of blooming, they showed greater patience when those kids struggled. They gave them more opportunities to answer questions out loud and showered them with more positive feedback. The false expectation of academic growth literally manufactured a totally different, highly nurturing reality where that growth was basically guaranteed to happen. All right, let's look at the actual science behind this in section 3, the Pygmalion and Golem effects. What we're actually looking at here are two core psychological concepts, and let's start with the positive one, the Pygmalion effect. In plain terms, this is the phenomenon where higher expectations lead directly to improved performance. When people are expected to succeed, they are treated differently. And it's that totally different treatment that creates the very success that was expected in the first place. It is, quite literally, the ultimate self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's break down exactly how this invisible engine operates on a mechanical level. It follows this really clear 5-step chain reaction. Step 1, it all starts with an expectation. Step 2, that expectation actively changes the behavior of the person in charge, the teacher, the boss, the parent. Step 3, this highly supportive behavior builds serious confidence in the person being led. Step 4, higher confidence naturally leads to better performance. And finally, step 5, better performance yields tangible results. The expectation literally helps manufacture the outcome step by step. But as we know, every powerful force has a dark side. Meet the Golem effect. This is the dark mirror to Pygmalion, the phenomenon where negative expectations actually lead to worse outcomes. When people are repeatedly treated as incapable, average, or just unlikely to succeed, they actually perform worse. This is exactly why a manager who just doesn't believe in you, or negative labels slapped on you during childhood, can be so profoundly destructive over time. And this brilliantly illustrates how the mechanism is exactly the same, just thrown into reverse, trapping people in this awful downward spiral. Step 1, a negative expectation. Step 2, dismissive or maybe impatient behavior from the leader. Step 3, this quickly leads to reduced confidence in the individual. Step 4, which directly results in lower performance. And step 5, ultimately ending in negative results. The invisible engine works just as powerfully in reverse, completely dragging performance down. Okay, so how does this actually play out for us today? Let's move into section 4, shaping the real world. Bridging the gap from 1960s psychology right into the modern workplace, we see this everywhere. Managers form these early, often totally unconscious impressions of their employees. If you get tagged as high potential, you get more coaching, way better assignments, and greater trust. And boom, that accelerates your growth. But if you're perceived as just average, well, you get standard oversight, routine tasks, and way less exposure. The expectation dictates the behavior, and the behavior dictates who gets promoted. It's a real game changer for leadership. Good leaders absolutely need to understand this so they can hold high expectations while remaining deeply objective about everyone's true potential. We see this even more profoundly at home and in the classroom. Children deeply internalize the repeated messages they hear. If they constantly hear things like, "You are capable," or "You can learn this," they rise right up to it. But if they hear, "You are lazy," or "You're just not good at math," they shrink to fit that exact mold. So, the crucial point is this. Repeated expectations eventually become our identity. Identity influences behavior, and behavior influences results. Whether we're talking about a classroom, a living room, or a corporate boardroom, these invisible forces we constantly project solidify into highly visible realities. Now let's shift gears a bit. Welcome to our final section, algorithms as expectation engines, where human psychological loops are literally being replicated by machines. What actually happens when human psychology collides with the digital world? Well, modern social media algorithms function exactly like expectation systems. Let's move to and see how this builds in a self-reinforcing loop. Step 1, a creator posts content. Step 2, the platform observes the engagement. Step 3, the algorithm rewards and promotes that specific action. Step 4, the creator makes more content of the same type to satisfy that expectation. And step 5, eventually, that repeated pattern becomes the creator's identity. The system is gradually shaping human behavior just by rewarding what it expects to see. Which leads us to a massive question to reflect on. Are algorithms actually becoming our modern expectation engines? Are they functioning just like those teachers in the 1968 study, selectively nurturing certain behaviors while completely ignoring others? It really makes you stop and wonder how these automated systems are gradually shaping not just the media we endlessly scroll through, but who we actually become in the process. Let's zoom out and summarize the broader principle we've unpacked today. We almost always assume that success results entirely from raw talent. But the truth? The systems shaping our outcomes are often psychological, rather than purely mechanical. Expectations heavily influence the opportunities we get, the confidence we build, and the motivation we feel deep down. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Some of the most incredibly powerful engines in the world are completely invisible. They don't run on fuel, they run on expectations. And those expectations quietly shape our reality every single day. So ask yourself, how much of success is simply self-belief? And how much of that self-belief was quietly handed to us by the expectations of others? More importantly, now that you can actually see this invisible engine, how will you choose to drive it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.